Today we're going to be talking about how to add and create amazing details for the eyes in Photoshop just like this. So without any further ado, let's get started. So here we are in Photoshop, and if you want to go ahead and download any other photos shown in the video, make sure to go ahead and check the links in the description so that you can follow along. Alright, let's have a look at the first image. Let's zoom in quite a bit, have a look at her eyes. Where is the light coming from? Light is coming from the top right. Right? Now what is the construction of the eye? If I go ahead and create a new layer, let's look at the construction of the eye so that you can understand what's actually happening over there. Alright, let's zoom in quite a bit, and this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm not drawing her third eye. Alright, so suppose the eye is this, right? So eye looks like this from the side. So this is the eyeball, this is the eye, and suppose this is the eyebrow. Okay, so this is something like this. This is how the eye looks. Not exactly like this, but you get the idea. Now, here is something called the pupil, right? This black thing that you see, this is the pupil. And outside of that, the brown thing over there is the iris. All right, let's choose a different color so that you can see. All right, so this is the iris. Okay, now suppose if the light is coming from this direction, let me just go ahead and change the color again. All right, now suppose the light is coming from this direction, then it will go inside, it will reflect here and bounce off, right? So similarly in this case, if the light is coming from this direction, it will go inside, it will come to the opposite direction, it will make it shine and then bounce off to the camera. Sometimes the camera doesn't capture that. What we're gonna do, we're gonna accentuate that reflection. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and do it. So first of all, what you have to do, create a curves adjustment layer, as easy as that. Click on the adjustment layer icon and choose curves. Then take it all up. Click in the middle, bring it all up just like this. Now it brightens everything. We want to hide everything behind the mask and draw the separate details of the eyes. Alright, so make sure to select the mask and then press Ctrl or Command I. Now let's zoom in quite a bit, and this is quite crucial. Take the brush, make it smaller, make it softer. How to make it softer? Hold the Alt or Option key, and with the right mouse button, drag it to the right to make it bigger, drag it to the left to make it smaller, drag it up to make it soft, drag it down to make it hard. So make it soft, totally soft, and make it small. Let's zoom in even more, just like this. Even if the pixels are just like cracking up, zoom in and change the color from black to white. Make sure the foreground color is white, because what is the concept of mask again? White are the areas which show up, black are the areas which do not show up. So for example, right now the mask is completely black, and that's why you cannot see any effect of the curve on the image. If I just go ahead and take the brush, increase the flow to 100 and paint somewhere around here, you see the effect of curve over there? Because that area is painted in white. Have a look, white is the foreground color. So white are the areas which show up in an adjustment layer or any kind of layer, and black are the areas which do not show up. Let's go back, press Ctrl Alt Z, Command Option Z if you're using a Mac, Z as the way you pronounce it. Alright, now take the brush, make it smaller, decrease the flow. This is very important. Decrease the flow to somewhere around 15 or 20-ish. 20 would be fine, and start drawing in lines. Okay, small lines, small strokes over there. Make sure the color is white and start drawing in like that. Have a little patience, but do it all throughout the iris. You can make the brush a little bigger if you want to, but I think this is giving it a very nice texture over there. Let's make it a little bigger. If you want to do it all at once, you can also go ahead and increase the flow to somewhere around 80 or even 100 if you want to. But I tend to keep the flow a little lower so that I can get more leeway into how many times I can get the opportunity to paint. That way you kind of get more texture. That's what I feel. But then again, it's totally upon you. If you want to draw less lines, that's your style. Please go for it. Okay. See, we are creating textures right now. We are not dependent upon the texture of this because this is very flat. It's softened out, all right? So we need to create the texture. So, like so. and make sure you draw the lines along the radius. Now what do I mean by that? Suppose this is a circle. What's the center of the circle? This is the center. So if I take a line from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle, what would that line look like? So draw along that line. So let me show you what I actually mean by that. So if there's a center of this circle, let me increase the flow to 100, and this is the edge, right? So make sure you're creating the lines along this line, okay? Along the radius. Don't draw lines like this or like that. Make sure they are in line with that of the radius. Got the idea? Okay, let's go back to the mask. Make sure white is the foreground color, flow 20%, and let's draw the lines. I think it's enough, but then again, let's draw a couple more lines to add a couple more details. After you have done that, you can just paint a couple times in one particular place at regular spacings. Like so. Okay, so there we go, it's ready. Have a look at the before and after. So this is the after. Look how much more detailed this looks. Alright, so this is the after. And let me show you the before. Before, after, before, after. Looks amazing, doesn't it? But this is not it. Remember what I told you. If the light is coming from top right, the bottom left will shine, or the opposite side will shine. But in this case, all of the iris is shining quite a bit. So we need to keep it under control. So how do we keep it under control? We can of course go ahead and take the brush, make sure the foreground color is black by pressing X to toggle between the foreground and the background color. And then we can just go ahead and erase from the sides like so. But then again, if we want something back, we cannot get it back. It's kind of destructive. So here's the best way to go about it. Let's go back by pressing Ctrl Alt Z, Command Option Z if you're using a Mac. Alright, now let's keep this curves adjustment layer inside of a group, right? Why we are doing this? Let's do it. Control or Command G. Because group can also have a mask of its own, right? Now, if you go ahead and create a mask for the group by clicking on this mask button, take the brush, and in this mask, you erase the sides like that. So make sure the flow is low this time around as well, and just click a couple of times, draw a couple of times over there. Not too much, just a little bit. Now that looks nice. Now, what the advantage of this is that if you want more details, if you want it back, the areas that you painted, you can always go ahead and get it back because this is a separate mask. So select the mask, you can always change the color from black to white and you can get this detail back, right? In that case, if you directly did it, you couldn't have got it back, alright? So let's zoom in quite a bit and let's delete some details from the middle by making sure the foreground color is black, like so that, and from the outside just a little bit, and here we have it. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? Now, if you want to increase the brightness, you can do that as well. Select the Curves Adjustment Layer properties by clicking on the icon and make it even brighter if you want to. But I'm gonna keep it a little lighter. I'm gonna show you one more little trick which is more exciting. Now let's create a Curves Adjustment Layer outside of this group. Click on the Adjustment Layer icon and choose Curves. Now put it outside the group by clicking and dragging it to the top. And similarly in this one, click in the middle, take it up, brighten it all up. Select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I. This inverts the mask. Take the brush, make sure the foreground color is white, and then make sure the flow is again 20%, or this time you can go a little higher, maybe 30 or 40%. Let's go 30 and let's zoom in quite a bit. You can decrease the smoothing. This is not needed over there, smoothing by the way. And just draw a couple of strands where it will shine, okay? So let's make the brush a little smaller and let's draw just a few strands like so. Decrease the size, I think it was too big, like that. And even in this one you can go decrease the flow to 20%. It's totally dependent upon your taste. I like it low. Just a couple of strands, not all the strands. Just like this, a little bit here, a little bit there. Now, what you can do then, this is very exciting, you can change the color of this one. Inside of the curves, you don't have to add any other adjustment layers or so. Now, if this is too much, change the color from white to black, okay? Press X to toggle between the foreground and the background again, and you can just erase some areas if you think you have done too much, like so. Right? Now, you can change the colors. You can change the brightness of these few lines, just a few lines, and then you can go to any other color that you want. If you want to add more yellow, go to blue, and yellow is the opposite of blue, right? So we will decrease the blues to get yellow tint over there. Just a little bit yellow. Have a look. Before, after. The yellow thing over there, that looks really fantastic. Don't go too much with this. Let's increase the reds a little bit. Let's choose red and increase it from the top. Let's do it from the top, just a little bit, not too much. Okay. Let's see if we can add some magenta by taking down the greens. No, that doesn't look right. If we add greens, yes, that looks fantastic. Okay, let's come back to blues again, and we think we added too much of yellows. All right, now that looks cool, but something is looking odd, right? Something is looking odd. What is looking odd? Nothing. It's too much. Just decrease the opacity. Don't have too much of it. All right, 90 looks good. And then again, create a group of this. Control or Command G. Make sure the curves 2 is inside a group and create a mask of the group. And then again, do the same thing. Take the brush, make it bigger, make it softer, and paint around the corners. You don't want too much of it. Just like that. Now have a look, before, after. Just those little points. If you want to go ahead, you can increase the brightness of that as well. And then you can increase the yellows in them if you want to. And there you have it. Now have a look at the before and after of this eye, just this eye. We have done very minimal adjustments. Have a look. Before, after. Before, after. Creates a lot of dimension in that. If you want to make the eyes pop even more, here's what you can do. I think it should be a little brighter. Let's come back to this one and let's make it even more brighter, like so. Just a little bit more, like that. And now, here's what you can do. Create a new layer on top of everything, alright? Click on the new layer icon and make sure it's on top of the group, like so. And then take the brush, make sure the foreground color is white. Right now it's some random color. You can always go ahead and press D for dog, to reset the swatches to black and white. Let's zoom in quite a bit. Make sure the foreground color is white by pressing X to toggle between the foreground and the background, and just paint on the catch lights, okay? Increase the flow, doesn't matter at this moment. Just paint over the catch lights. Let's take the eraser and let's erase it. It's too much over there. All right. Now let's take the brush and let's paint back in, and let's paint this area, I guess. That looks fancy. Now double click on the right hand side of the layer. Okay. This opens up the layer styles dialog box. Now we don't want the catch lights on the darker areas of the eye. So what do? We will delete the dark areas of the underlying layer, or the layers which are beneath it, from this layer. So how to do that? Let's go down to blend if inside of blending options, and let's take the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. We are removing the shadow areas of the underlying layer from the current layer, which is the catch light layer, like this. This is very harsh, so here's what we do. Hold the Alt or Option, click on this to break it up, and then take it like so. Now that is something very interesting. Hit OK once you're satisfied, and have a look at the before and after. Before, after adds that extra brightness. And if you want to go ahead and erase it, extra areas, take the eraser and just erase these extra areas. I think they're extras. Alrighty, let's erase them like so. Now if we zoom out, have a look at the effect. Before, after, before, after. Now have a look at the overall before and after. So before, after makes a ton of difference. Now, so the question is, do you need to do it again for the other eye? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, if you want it to be super realistic to the point that you can barely notice, and no, if you want yourself to be super efficient. We choose to be super efficient. So here's what you do. Select the group, hold the Control or Command, select the other group, and make a group of both of those. So we're making a complete group of the iris thing, the iris highlighting. Control or Command G. Alright, so have a look, before, after. The catch lights are separate. They are separate. I'm not talking about making a group of them. Alright, so you can name this iris pop or anything that you like, or eye highlighting or whatever fancy stuff. Now all you need to do, select the Move tool, hold the Alt or Option. This is important. Hold the Alt or Option, click on it, drag it, and drop it to this eye, just like that. And zoom in and adjust it using the arrow keys. So down arrow keys, left arrow key, and there you go. But if you're like, wait, what about the catch lights? You don't have to make a copy of it. Here's why. We have already applied blend if, right? So you can come back to this layer, take the brush, and you can paint back in the catch lights of this one. And I don't recommend copying it, but because the shape is different on the other eye. So let's just go ahead and paint in this area. Just like so. And you can go ahead and take the eraser and paint away the extras. Like that. And therefore, you have painted in the catch lights. Have a look at the overall before and after. So this is the after and this is the before. What a dramatic difference it makes. Again, this is the before and this is the after. And if you're wondering what key am I holding down, I'm holding down the Alt or Option. So if you hold down the Alt or Option and click on the layer visibility icon, it goes solo. That particular layer, that goes solo. If you hold that down again and click on the layer visibility again, everything shows up that was showing up before. Alright, now that you've been watching for so long, I have to say thank you so much, my friend. And just as a bonus, let me show you something interesting. Have a look at this example. I've already brightened up the eyes in this one, but if you zoom in, have a look at the veins. They are a little distracting in the eye whites, right? And we need to remove the red veins. So how to take care of that? Simple. Create a new layer. Select the regular healing brush tool. Right click in here and select the healing brush tool, not the spot one, just the normal one. And make sure you change the blend mode from normal to lighten, okay? And then zoom into the eye veins and take a sample and paint. Now why lighten? This is very crucial. Why lighten? If you take a sample from a dark area, okay, let's take a sample from a dark area and try to paint on a bright area. It just won't paint. Okay? And if you take a sample from a very bright area and paint on the dark area, it paints, right? So when you choose lighten, we are saying to Photoshop that if you can brighten it, if you can lighten it, paint. If you cannot lighten it, do nothing. So if you're taking a sample from a dark area and painting it over here, we cannot make anything brighter by using something darker, can we? No, right? So make sure the blend mode is lightened and make sure you choose all layers. Okay, we want a sample from every layer there is. Let's zoom in and take a sample from a white area and paint on the red veins. That way we will just paint on the veins. We'll just remove the veins. So take a sample by holding the Alt or Option, click in here and paint. It won't paint. Why? Because the current layer is selected. Make sure all layers is selected inside of the sample. All right, let's zoom in and take sample and paint on this area. It will only remove the vein. Now when you're doing this and when you have the blend mode lighten, and if you have the choice between sampling from a dark area and a bright area, always sample from a darker area. Why is that so? So for example, you sample from a super bright area like this, okay, and you're painting it over here. It will make it look strange. It will over brighten up this area. But if you're painting here, better take a sample from here and then paint. Here's why. Even if you sample from a super dark area, you cannot accidentally darken it because the blend mode is lighten. It will always lighten. So if you sample from super dark area like here and paint it over there, it just won't paint. But if you take a sample from a super bright area like this and paint over there, it can accidentally brighten it, right? It can accidentally super brighten it like that, but it cannot accidentally super darken it. So if you have the choice to sample between a dark area and a bright area, when the blend mode is lighten, always choose the dark area. Okay, so that way everything will be good. So let's take sample from here and paint over there, sample from here, paint over there. And I'm not going to do it completely for you, but this is how it works. All right, have a look at the before and after. So before, after, we have removed those veins. Take a sample and there we go. Make sure aligned is checked. What is aligned? So if you have aligned unchecked, and if you take a sample from there, if you paint in, it moves. But if you paint somewhere else, like this, the sample stays at the same place like that. So if I'm painting over there, see the sample stays over there. So if aligned is checked, if I'm taking a sample from here and painting it over there, if I'm moving it to here, it moves, the sample moves. If I'm painting over here, see the sample from moves. All right, so make sure aligned is checked and then paint in these areas. And at the end, I will always recommend this. Take a break and get back to the image. And more often than not, if you're like me, it is too much. So here's what you do. Decrease the overall opacity if you think it is too much. Let's make a group of both of these, left and the right, by holding the Control or Command. Select the other one, press Ctrl or Command G and then decrease the opacity. Simple. To somewhere around, let's say 70. That looks fine. Let's zoom out. That looks very natural. And there you go. So that's how to not just add but create amazing details for the eyes in Photoshop very easily. Just as a quick recap, create a curves adjustment layer. Click on the middle, take it all up, and then select the mask, invert the mask. Take the brush, make sure the foreground color is white and the flow is around 20%. And then with a small brush and a soft brush, just paint along the radius on the iris. Then you can create a group just consisting of that curves adjustment layer and create a mask for that group and fade in the edges. You can repeat the same process if you want to add some extra highlights and colors and all that other stuff. If you want the eyes to look much more fancier, you can create a new layer and paint in the catch lights, and then using Blend F, take away the catch lights from the dark areas, and then make a group of the iris highlights and copy it to the other eye if you want yourself to be efficient. And that's pretty much it. I also explained how to remove the veins by using the regular healing brush tool and the blend mode, lighten. If you want to know more about eye retouching, tips and tricks, changing colors and all that fancy stuff, check out the playlist right here. This is a complete playlist dedicated to eye retouching. I hope this video helped you, and if it did, make sure to give us a like and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe, ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss anything. I'll see you guys on the next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.